Hey everyone, nice to see you all. My name is Jarek Robbins. I'm here with the incredible, the amazing, the wonderful Amanda Robbins. Nice to have you, my love.
I wasn't ready.
She wasn't
Ah!
ready.
Oh,
No.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me as your guest today and every day. It's a privilege and an honor. All
Today
right.
we're talking about maximizing your recovery, and specifically maximizing your recovery. Let me paint the picture for what this is really focused on.
Love this topic.
Um, I love this topic. I think it's so important, and I learned this back. I learned it the wrong way. Um, so let's
Who's it
just
for? Who needs this? Let's start there.
high performers. Well, let me put it this way: if we were to use vehicles as an analogy, how often do you need to take your Chrysler minivan in for an oil change? Like, I don't know. What is it? Once a year, every 5 to 7,000 miles, it needs to stop and get a tune up and an oil change. Versus, how often do you need to take an F1 race car in for a pit stop? Well, it's every, I don't know how many it is. Let's say every 20 laps. That's
Uh-huh.
a big difference.
Yeah.
Like, 20 laps versus 12 months is totally different. And so, if I were to ask you on a scale from Chrysler minivan to F1 race car, what level of performance are you trying to produce in your life as a human being? Like, what are you trying to produce? Are you a minivan? Are you just trying to kind of go the distance every year, and maybe once a year you'll plug in to get a oil change and tune up and you're good to go? Or are you attempting to take on life at the intensity, the pace, the ferociousness of an F1 race car? And we just started watching this show. What is it? F1.
F1.
I
Formula
forget
One.
what it's
I think
It's the
it's called
Formula
F1.
One TV show. It's really aggressive. I mean, these people train like some of the most intense athletes on earth for the intensity at which they're driving these cars. If you mess up, they fly off the track, they blow up. Like, your life is on the line. You're competing at the highest level. The cars are incredibly expensive. You have a team, and this is an important part. If I look at the F1 team, I counted one time, they had 22 people to do a pit stop. 22 people were involved with changing the tires, refueling it, recalibrating stuff, organizing the car, and getting it on the track. And what's interesting, if you look back in history in like 1950s, there was one person on your pit crew, and it took literally 5 minutes to complete a pit stop. 5 minutes. That car would pull in, the driver would get out of the car, and there'd be one dude with a hammer, and he'd go knock the peg off one wheel and yank the wheel off and wheel it away, and then come wheeling back and put the wheel on and knock the peg back in, and then he'd go do the next tire and the next tire and the next tire. The driver's leaning on the car drinking a Coca-Cola, and then when it's almost done, the driver sets the Coca-Cola down and climbs back in and wipes his goggles, and then they do one more thing and put some fuel in it, and then the guy pushes the car, and the car slowly goes rolling back onto the track. That was 5 minutes. It seems insane, 5 minutes nowadays. So I watched a current, I think it was 2015, which is still a while ago. The car pulls in, 22 people go, and the car is gone. And I was like, whoa, that was insane. They had 4 new tires, a full tank of gas. They adjusted 2 things on the car. They cleaned, they switched out his visor. They did all these things. And the time, I think, was like 1.8 seconds. And I was like,
Yeah, that's crazy.
to go from 5 minutes to, let's say, under 3 seconds, or let me see what the actual time was.
I'm just thinking, like, how can I build this into my life? I need a pit squad team.
And so this 1.8 seconds. 1.8 seconds is the fastest. It was made by McLaren Racing.
1 point what?
1.8 seconds was the fastest pit stop.
1.8 seconds they did a pit stop?
It was Formula One recorded by the McLaren Racing Limited Pit Crew servicing Lando Norris. It was on lap 27 of the 2023 Qatar Grand Prix. The previous record was by Oracle Red Bull Racing with a pit stop of 1.82 seconds. So 1.8 seconds. And so in 1.8 seconds, they swapped out the tires, filled the gas tank, and got the car back onto the track at racing speed. And so let me ask you, for high performers, I tend to work one-on-one in coaching, business, or personally high performers, people who want to move at an F1 race car pace through life and business. They want to achieve World Cup results. They want the championship. They want to be the best on earth at what they do. So I always start with the concept of tell me, and here's the first question: how far and how fast can you go before you require a pit stop?
Mm.
How far and how fast can you go before you require a pit stop?
Can you type
Now,
that in?
I'll tell you a clue. How far and how fast can you go before you require a pit stop?
Wait, hold on. You're gonna tell people, but should they guess first? It's interesting to see what we think we need versus the questions you're going to ask to get clarity on
Well, watch
what
this.
is
Love,
the
how far and
reality.
how fast can you go before you need a pit stop?
Oh, good. I love to be the guinea pig. Okay, so or the the client. Um, how far and how fast can I go?
Yeah.
Ooh. I like old me or new me?
Old you.
Old me. Oh, old me.
Now
She's
watch
a
this.
grinder.
Would you consider yourself an achiever, a peak performer,
Heck
someone
yeah.
who's driven,
Crush it.
someone who's trying to
Absolutely.
accomplish everything in the moon and back?
Yes. Yes. Old me, oh my gosh, all day. I didn't need much sleep. Eating was easy to forget about, and I would pack as much as I could into every single minute of the day. There's no breaks. It was like I would just keep going, and I really yeah, I felt like I was, like, unstoppable.
Mhm. Yep. And so if you look at the results, I don't know if you'd be willing to share.
Okay, so back then, I would say I could go a week or so without, like, a major pit stop. Like, I'd, like, sleep because you have to, but, otherwise, my mantra was, like, "I'll sleep when I'm dead," not
Mhm.
realizing I probably was killing myself, which was so lame. So I'd probably go a solid week without a pit stop, and
Yep.
then the result was, which I think you were gonna ask, was I would hit a wall, like, just straight up hit a wall and sleep for, like, like a half a day, like total, I couldn't function. And I don't remember if it was like a week or maybe a little bit longer, but I was just like, it was like cold turkey. It was like nothing was coming out of me. And it would take me out for like a full day to recover. And then I'd get back going again.
Yeah. And back then, what did a pit stop look like?
My body shutting down and forcing me to rest.
Yeah.
It wasn't really voluntary. It was like my body was like, I can't function. And
Yep.
like hit a
And
wall.
so
It was
look at this.
bad.
If we take that to the racetrack, what does that mean? That's the equivalent
Oh
of
my gosh, that's such a great
not
analogy.
stopping,
Yeah.
not slowing down,
Dude, I'm
not
losing
pit
the
stopping.
race. I've
You're
lost my
driving your car so fast, so intensely
yes.
until your tires burn off, so it's no longer
I
able
run
to
out of gas.
perform.
I'm not even stopped at the pit stop where they can fill me up. They
Your
gotta race out,
engine catches
pull me
on
in.
fire.
I
You're
need
on
a
the
tow
side of
truck.
the track, lit on fire, tires fell off, and you're like, "Oh man, I guess I have to pit now." And so I'll sleep when I'm dead is I'll pit stop when my car blows up.
Yeah.
As soon as my car blows up and it doesn't work anymore and the tires fall off and the engine explodes and it's just a flaming pile of crap on the road, then I'll pit.
Yeah. Yeah,
And I'll give
I'm not
you a
winning
clue.
the
If you're
F1.
watching, that
Yeah.
doesn't work.
No. It doesn't work for, like, anyone, I guess, like, I thought I was
No
a
one.
high performer, but when you
It
think about
doesn't
really
work.
you're right, and what I'm saying is I thought that's what high performance was, but when you truly look at a high performer or a high performing team or a high performing individual or whatever it is in any category of life, sports, like business, relationships, anything, it doesn't work that like, that's not what the best of the best do, right?
No.
At all. Like, I've never seen a player just, like, be drug off because they're falling over from exhaustion, thank God, like, on the field because they haven't taken time to recover and, like,
There's been
okay,
a few in the last couple of years, but it wasn't
well,
because of
that's for
horrific pit
different
stops.
reasons. That's for different reasons. That's, like,
So
okay.
this concept though is let's just put a giant stamp on it. Like doesn't work.
No.
It doesn't work. If you want to lose the race, if you want to not even be able to race again, if you want it to entirely burn down what you have and have no possible future ahead of you, that's the strategy. And so when we then go look at, you said, what do high performers do? What do top athletes do? What do top professionals do? What do top executives do? What do top business owners do? If you want sustainable success, if you want consistent results, then the question becomes how far and how fast can you go before you require a pit stop? Now, for a lot of people, people go, a pit stop? What, like a vacation? Where I go on the beach and hit the Mai Tais and get plastered? It's like, could you imagine an F1 race car pulling into the pit and then taking a bunch of sand and pumping it into the engine
I thought you were
and
gonna
putting a
say
bunch of crap in it and then being like, go for it. Now get out there and really do your thing. And the car would again explode. Doesn't work that way.
or filling it with Mai Tais, I suppose, or whatever.
It doesn't work. So I
Doesn't
always
work.
ask people when it comes to fuel, what is your fuel of choice? If you had a dream car, I always ask people, if you had a dream car, I don't care if it's a Jeep Wagoneer or a Bugatti or a Porsche or a Ferrari or whatever your dream car is. Let's say you worked for a handful of years and you finally felt like you earned it and you gave yourself permission to go buy it and you walked into that dealership and you got the decked out one with AMG and everything else on it. You bought the best one you wanted. Is the first thing you do is drive it over to the beach and take a bucket of sand and pour it into the gas tank? Everyone would be like, are you crazy? You'll break the engine. And I would say, okay, great. Well, what are you doing to your body? Because most of us, we go have a moment where we feel like we've succeeded, we've achieved, we've accomplished. We finally give ourselves permission to enjoy what we work so hard for. And the first thing we do is go shovel a bunch of crap down our throats and jack up our engine. And people are like, I would never do that to a car. And I was like, wow, well, how much is the car worth? 50 grand, 20 grand, 100 grand, maybe 5 million bucks if you splurged and went crazy. So your body's not worth more than that? You only get one of them. You can replace a car. You
True.
can't replace your body yet. I'll say yet because I think science is getting there. But as of now, you can't replace it. You only get one, and when it's gone, it's gone. But we treat it as if we can just, we'll swap out a liver. We'll swap out a kidney. No big deal. Maybe if you're on the organ donor list and get lucky. But like, what a mess conceptually of what people are doing to themselves. And so high performers, even high performers get caught in this. It's their way to relieve stress, calm themselves down, celebrate a championship. The thought process, they literally take their vehicle, go to the beach, put a bunch of sand in the engine and jack that thing up in all the wrong ways. And so if one, you got to commit to what are you going to put in the engine? And what I mean is, what are you going to eat? What are you going to drink? What are you going to mentally consume? What are you going to emotionally consume? What are you going to allow in? What is the input you're going to allow into your mind, body, and emotions if you're expecting the output to be extreme high performance? What is the input you're going to allow into your mind, body, and emotions if you're expecting the output to be high performance? What do you need to fuel yourself with if you want those types of results? Is the next question. So, how far and how fast can you go? Second question is, what do you need to fuel yourself with if you truly want extreme high performance results? Now, I'm sure someone's watching and they're like, dude, screw it. I'm a minivan. I don't care about high performance. I want a smooth ride in life. I want the family in the back. I'll once a year, I'll maybe stop and they are going to do their Mai Tai and they are going to eat fried whatever. And hey, as long as their minivan keeps driving for 100,000 miles, they had a great life. That's all they want out of it. There's other people watching who are like, that's a joke. No, thank you. I want high performance results. I want a big life. I want to break every rule. I want to experience what's possible. I want to experience the best, brightest, the most. I want it all. Well, cool. Then you're going to have to make a decision of what you're going to allow into your gas tank or fuel tank, we might call it, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. What are you going to allow in if you want the output to be extreme high performance? We got to get real picky on what we're going to allow in if you want that kind of output. What is the input to create the output you desire? The next piece, what does that pit stop look like for you? We talked about the difference between the 5-minute pit stop, the OG, the original, with one person on the pit crew trying to get this car back up to par in 5 minutes. We talked about McLaren's 1.8-second pit stop where they got fresh tires, a full tank of gas, and the car back on the track in 1.8 seconds. But it required 22 people on the pit crew, not including their racing team who's back in the office watching all the monitors and talking to the driver. That's just the pit crew is 22 people. Now, if you go look at some of the top athletes on earth, that's a common thing. I mean, LeBron spends over $1 million a year on his staff whose full-time job is keeping him fully primed. But people go, well, great. I don't have $1 million a year. I'm not LeBron. Okay. Well, what is available?
Mm-hmm.
What is available? I think one of the most beautiful things a friend said the other day is, we've stepped away from our village.
Yeah.
Meaning, when moms used to raise children, there was family or a village or a community around. So it's like, hey, I'll take all the kids on Monday while you all go have time to refuel and do some stuff. Great. You take them on Tuesday and all of us will go get other stuff done. Great. I'll take them on Wednesday and you all, they support each other. I call that a pit crew. It's multiple people working together to help each other refuel. That's a leveraged pit crew. Some people are like, I don't have time for that. I want to pay for my pit crew. So here, I'll pay you all to come focus on getting me back to my best. I don't know what stage you're at as far as building your pit crew, but who do you need on your pit crew and what do you need them to focus on? And watch this, start off with this phrase. If I could have it all my way, here is who I'd have on my pit crew, and here is what I'd have them helping me with. If you could have it all your way and you wanted to perform at extreme high performance levels, who would be on your pit crew and what specifically would they be helping you with?
Can I add something?
Please.
I think too, when we're thinking about these resources and who we need to call in to support us, it's also important to think about what trades we need to make with the current habits that are limiting us in those practices that help us refuel, right? So, like the trade off, grabbing your phone first thing in the morning and scrolling through Instagram or whatever it is, and instead doing some breath work, like grabbing it and putting on the breath work app, right? So, what are the trades that need to be made so that the behavior. So if you don't, maybe you're like, hey, I don't have those people or I don't have those resources, but you have also, you do have the skill set. You have the ability to change your habits and replace some of those habits that aren't refilling you or fueling you with habits that do that, right? So what are
Mhm.
the trades you need to make to replace those habits that don't serve you with habits that do serve you, that do help you recharge and fill up? Hello?
I think one of the important parts of fuel is realizing everything we listen to, everything we talk about, everything we watch,
Yeah.
everything we allow in our space and environment. This is
Yes.
all either fueling us and inspiring us and causing us to elevate,
Yes.
or this is an anchor in the sand behind us when we're trying to go forward in a sailboat, and it's literally just slowing us down and anchoring us to the past.
I just I just shared a video on that actually that was, it was Simon Sinek talking about that, and it's something that we definitely teach as well, which is you can take a high performer and put them in an environment with people that are lower performers or not doing these habits and rituals that make them their best selves, and their performance will drop. Meanwhile, you can also take a mediocre performer and put them in an environment with high performers. Even if they didn't necessarily want to change, they will start to improve because of their environment. Our environment, I truly believe, is so highly overlooked and how it impacts our performance. Just like what you're saying, your environment isn't just what's physically around you, it's also the environment you create in your mind by the things that you consume,
Mhm.
the things you hear, the things you see, the things you eat, like all of those things create an environment externally and internally, right?
I was reading the comments on that post that you posted, love, and one of the people, like 3 or 4 comments down, said,
Right.
"I beg to differ. I've seen a great high performance environment with one bad apple introduced, and they've ruined the entire culture." And I went, "Ooh, why or how could that have happened?" That means the environment was not willing to uphold the standards.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
because the environment was willing to allow the standard to drop, one person could tear down the entire environment.
Yes.
Versus
Yes.
if the standard was upheld
Yes.
and it was not tolerated for someone to behave like that, that person would either step up or step out.
Yes. Yes.
And so you got to remember this concept of people might cultivate, like, oh, I'm going to surround myself with all these incredible humans. If they're not willing to uphold standards, one bad apple can collapse the whole environment. And so that
Yes.
means the environment, whoever's partaking in this group, has to be willing to uphold standards. Standards are not negotiable. These happen, period. There is not an or else. There's no other option. These are the standards. If you're on this team, here's how we perform,
Yeah.
period. If you're
I
not
love that.
willing to uphold it, you are off the team, period. That is it. And so when you look through this, you got to think through number one, how far and how fast can you go before you require a pit stop? Number two, what fuel do you need mentally, emotionally, physically to be at your absolute best? Number three, who do you need on your pit crew and what specifically do you need to help their, what specific support do you need from them? And so when you look through this concept, if you build this out properly, my wife and I were just talking about this the other day. We were looking at our calendar and realizing, it's time for us to upgrade the type of pit crew or the type of refuel we need. Now, we've built this into our daily life because I've realized if I'm going to push that hard every day, I need regular pit stops. And so a pit stop for me happens often every morning. That is meditation, breath work, sauna, cold plunge, working out, affirmations, incantations, all these things refuel me back to my best. Now, those are short pit stops. My wife and I were just talking about, and she put it actually on her goal list. Is it okay if I share?
Yeah, absolutely.
So she put it on her goal list and she said, hey, if I can maintain these certain standards for the next 365 days, I'm going to put an extended 7-day pit stop on our calendar where I want to do breath work, yoga, meditation. I want to do it all day, every day for a full week to get my mind, body, spirit, and emotions all the way back up to its best. And so I look at that, I was like, wow, what a great idea. We've been pushing harder and we have these regular daily intervals to refuel ourselves. But how smart would it be to create an extended interval? And I started looking around the world, and I have some friends who are really into this. And there's these incredible places. There's a place called Lanzerhof, where people from Goldman Sachs and hedge funds, they send people to refuel them. It's one of the top medical day spas in the world, where you show up. They take your blood, they take all your samples, they figure out exactly where you are. And then over time of that week, they figure out who you need to meet with on their staff, what they need to get you dietary, mentally, emotionally, physically doing, spiritually doing. They get you all dialed in, they get you into the routine. And then you come back so many months or weeks or years later, they pull your stats and show you exactly how all your metrics have improved biologically. I was
Love
like,
it.
"Holy crap, that's literally a pit stop. That's wild."
Yeah.
If people aren't into the medicalness of that, there's another place in, I think it's Sedona, called Miyamo. This is more of a vision quest, spirit quest place where you can go talk with a shaman and, list, they said, what is it? Prayer is when you speak to God, meditation is when you listen. It's a place where you can go do deep prayer work and meditate and listen and find that inner guidance towards whatever that next step is for you in life. There's other places like Esalen, which is the old guard, the original place where Maslow and all these people went and did their deep inner work.
Love it.
There's all kinds of places you can go depending on what kind of pit stop you need, what actually refuels you mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and who you need on your team. And then you got to think about locally. If you could have it all your way, really, truly, money wasn't a thing. If you could have it all your way, who would you have on your pit crew? Would you have a massage therapist? Would you have a chiropractor? Would you have a chef? Would you have someone who's in charge of making sure you're eating and drinking all the right things all day long? Would you have a performance coach on your team to talk to and make sure you're dialed in mentally? Would you have, who else would be great? Would you have someone that's fun and full of laughter and joy to keep things light? Would you have a personal assistant? Would you have, like, who would you actually have on your team if you could have it all your way? And if you made that list, you might ask a question: who would be the person that would make the most difference first? Again, you might not be able to have all of them all at once, but if you could pick one to get started with, which one would make the biggest difference now?
I want to add something in there that you just shared that was so powerful. You're like, who would be on your team? Who would you call in to help you? And I think what really stood out is that all of this starts with you, though. Like, you have to be on your team. 20-something-year-old Amanda was not on her team at all. She wasn't going like, "You need pit stops." No, that wasn't it, right? So I think it starts with that. It starts with you. So again, going back to, if you don't feel, or you don't have the resources to call in these people, even if you did, regardless, you have to start with you. You have to be on your team to do these pit stops, to refuel and recharge so that you can perform at your very best. It starts with you, right? And then from there, adding in those things are a luxury. But if you're not on your team in the first place, you could call in all the people and nothing's going to change.
Love, I'm going to call some out. It's a luxury if you're driving a Chrysler minivan. If you're on an F1 race car, remove the pit crew and have them try to actually compete in the race.
Wait, say that again?
You said having this crew is a luxury. It is if you're driving a Chrysler minivan. Yeah, it's a luxury. Have the extra support and crew and people to help tune you up and keep you at your best. If you're actually trying to compete in an F1 race, take any the Red Bull team, the Oracle team, whatever, remove all 22 of their pit crew and see how well their car performs in the next race. At a certain level of
So
performance, a pit crew is
yes.
no longer a luxury. It is mandatory if you demand those kind of results out of your life and business.
Okay, so I completely agree with you. And if the driver is unwilling to take the pit stop, that's the key. I don't care what you're driving. If you're unwilling, I'm speaking to myself. For you, you're going to do these things. And I love that about you. You are going to do them. I am like even with my challenge. So like this is something important too that we only have a couple minutes and then I got to wrap, but in setting this 365-day goal for myself, I'm knowing like, wow, this is an area of my life that I really need and I've been kind of neglecting, specifically with meditation. I was like, wow, I have a lot of chatter here. Wow, I'm not stretching enough. I need to dial in my yoga and meditation again. Like that
Yep.
used to be part of my thing. I've fallen off track. I was like, how do I get this back on? It starts with the driver though. The driver has to think like, shit, I what? Like, I need to do this. That's step 1, no matter what, whether regardless of what you're driving. And what I was really speaking to is get clear on like what's going to help you make that decision. For me, it was like, what's my why? What's the most important thing? What's the benefit that's going to come from me doing this for myself, right? What's the benefit for you that's watching or listening? What's that benefit going to be for you when you do take a pit stop? Like, what's it costing you not to? And how is it really going to reward not just you, but the ones you love and the ones that count on you and the ones that need you and the ones that you work with in your community and so on and so forth. From there, what is it that really challenges you to take action? For me, it is a challenge. I was like, 365 days, let's go. Jarek said, why not just 30? And I was like, because I don't want this to be just something I do for 30 days.
Jared
I
did
want
not
it to
say
be
that.
okay, maybe you didn't say it. Maybe it was the person sorry.
Nice try, Robbins.
Someone asked me, like, "Why not just do, like, a 30-day challenge?" I was like, "'Cause
Wasn't
this
two
isn't
thumbs.
something
Wasn't me.
that I just wanna do for 30 days. I want this to become a part of who I am again, like an identity shift. And sure, you can argue that habits are formed within, I don't know, 60 or 90 days or whatever. For me, I'm like, let's go 365. And on top of that, I wouldn't have. So I know to you, this isn't a luxury bringing in these resources. It's a mandatory, it's a must. But for me, I was like, I'm not. So for anyone listening, they're like, you're not usually the type of person to give yourself permission to call in those resources, whether it's a chiropractor or a masseuse or prepped meals or whatever that is, whether it's because you don't, whatever inner work needs to happen there, or maybe the resources aren't there. But for me, I was like, I want to earn this like 365 days, and I'm going to give myself something I've always wanted to do. But for some reason, I've never given myself permission to do it, which was a retreat. Like I'm going to do that thing that I really would love. And I know it would be great for me, but I haven't given myself permission. And like, whatever, that's my own stuff from childhood. And so with this, like, that's what I'm saying. I'm speaking to the people that maybe they don't see these things as, or they see them as luxuries, but it's just like it starts with you and you showing up and you saying, I need the pit stop 1. And then you getting clear on like what's the minimum effort for maximum reward to recharge and refuel. And whether it's breath work or stretching or getting clear on your vision and your big vision and your goals, your reason for being, like whatever that is, your masseuse, your prepped meals, like what is it that's going to fill and fuel you up? And then whether it is people or it's just simply taking time, like how do you carve that in? Does that make sense?
What does that pit stop look like? How far and how fast can you go before you need a pit stop? What fuel do you need to be putting into your body mentally, emotionally, physically to be at your best self? Who do you need on your pit crew and what do you need them to bring to the table to really support you? These are some big questions we brought up today. If you want help working through stuff like this, go to performancecoachuniversity.com/apply. Fill out that application, hop on the calendar so we can chat with you and figure out how we can support you with this. Again, if your goal in life is to be a Chrysler minivan and just have a smooth ride that maybe you stop in once a year to try to refuel your tank and swap out the engine or oil, good for you. That's awesome. But if you have any level of drive or any level of motivation and you want to achieve something, you feel connected to wanting to have a big life, wanting to achieve results, wanting to do everything that's available out there and really make that happen, make those dreams you have an actual reality, not just a bunch of regrets on your deathbed saying, hey, I wish I would have tried to have a great life, or I wish I would have gone for it. If you actually want to do those things, apply to Performance Coach University. We'd love to chat with you about it and help you unpack this for yourself and build out the right regimen, build out the right pit stops, build out your pit crew so that you can be operating at high performance. Thank you, Love, for sharing this with us all today. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you later. PerformanceCoachUniversity.com/apply.
Let's go.